You were taught that speaking is strength, that expressing yourself earns respect, that explaining your intentions makes you trustworthy. That belief is not innocent. It is a trap designed for people meant to be read, predicted, and managed. Power does not announce itself, power observes. Every time you open your mouth unnecessarily, you are not communicating, you are leaking. You are revealing tempo, insecurity, hunger, fear. In nature, only prey makes noise without purpose. Predators move quietly, not because they are shy, but because silence keeps options alive. Speech collapses ambiguity. And ambiguity is power. When you talk too much, you give others a map. They learn what excites you, what angers you, what you defend, what you fear losing. From that moment, you are no longer an unknown variable. You are a solved equation. Most men speak to regulate their emotions. They talk to discharge pressure, to feel seen, to avoid discomfort. They confuse relief with control. But relief is temporary. Control is permanent. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology tried to soften it. In courts, alliances were not broken by swords first. They were broken by words, a careless sentence, an emotional confession, an explanation given too early to the wrong listener. The mouth was always the first weapon turned inward. The modern world rewards talkers with attention, not power. Attention is cheap. Power is scarce. Look closely at who speaks the most in any room. It is rarely the one with leverage. It is the one seeking it, the one justifying their presence, the one unconsciously asking for permission to exist. Talking becomes a signal of dependency. Silence, on the other hand, creates asymmetry. When you say less than expected, people fill the gap with projection. They guess, they worry, they adjust. They reveal themselves trying to understand you. Silence forces others to move first, and whoever moves first exposes their position. This is the lens shift you must accept. Your mouth is not a tool of honesty. It is a vulnerability point. Most men lose power not because they are weak, but because they are transparent. They narrate their struggles. They explain their boundaries, they announce their plans, they think clarity makes them safe. It does the opposite. Clarity makes you predictable. Predictability makes you manageable. Notice how institutions extract compliance. They encourage you to speak up, share, open up. Not because it empowers you, but because it creates records, patterns, profiles, leverage. Even socially, the same rule applies. The man who explains himself is already beneath the man who doesn't need to. The man who argues is already reacting. The man who stays quiet controls the frame. Silence is not absence. It is compression. It concentrates intent. It preserves optionality. It denies others the day do they need to corner you. This is why powerful figures are described as hard to read, not mysterious by accident, but by discipline. You don't need to lie less. You need to reveal less. This chapter is not telling you to become mute. It is forcing you to see speech for what it is, a strategic act, not a moral one. Words are moves on a board. Every move should change the position in your favor, or not be played at all. From this point forward, the question is no longer, what should I say? The question is, what do they gain if I speak? Most men never ask that, and that is why they are always explaining themselves. To bosses, to women, to friends, to enemies who smile while collecting information. Silence is the first line of sovereignty. Without it, everything else leaks. Disrespect does not begin with others. It begins the moment you feel compelled to explain yourself. The psychological mechanism is simple and brutal. Whoever speaks to justify their position has already lost leverage. Your mouth betrays you because it reacts before strategy engages. Speech is faster than thought. Emotion is faster than reason. When pressure rises, words rush out to relieve internal tension, not to win the external situation. This is how power leaks. Most men speak for one of three unconscious reasons: to seek approval, to avoid conflict, or to control perception. All three are admissions of dependency. Approval, seeking language, reveals insecurity. Conflict, avoidant language, reveals fear. Perception, controlling language, reveals manipulation, anxiety. None of these communicate strength. They communicate exposure. Machiavelli understood that men are read, not heard. What you say matters far less than why you felt the need to say it. Others don't analyze your words consciously, but their instincts register timing, tone, speed, and excess. Over-explaining is the clearest signal of low power. When you clarify something that wasn't questioned, you announce doubt. When you defend a boundary verbally, you show it isn't firm. When you explain your intentions, you reveal future moves. Silence would have done the opposite. There is a reason interrogations work the way they do. The interrogator applies pressure, then waits. The subject speaks to escape discomfort. Every word tightens the noose. The interrogator does not need to threaten. Silence does the work. Social situations operate on the same primitive circuitry. When someone disrespects you verbally, they are not attacking your identity. They are testing your nervous system. They want to see if you flinch, justify, laugh nervously, or retaliate emotionally. Each response gives them data. Words are data. The more emotionally charged the situation, the more valuable the data becomes. This is why insults are baited. This is why accusations are vague. This is why disrespect often comes wrapped in humor. The trap is not the insult. The trap is your response. When you speak impulsively, you collapse the psychological distance between you and the aggressor. You step into their frame, you accept their tempo, you validate their authority to provoke you. Even dominance displayed verbally is often false power. Loud men feel strong because sound creates the illusion of control, but volume fades, presence does not. True power operates below the threshold of reaction. Here is the mechanism most men never see. Speech externalizes power, silence internalizes it. When you speak, power leaves you and enters the environment. Others can twist it, repeat it, reinterpret it, weaponize it. When you remain silent, power stays contained. Others must guess. Guessing creates asymmetry. This is why the most dangerous moments are not when you are angry, but when you are eager to be understood. The desire to be understood is the desire to be seen favorably, and favor is a currency controlled by others. Once you seek it, you are no longer sovereign. Notice how quickly people respect the man who does not explain himself, not because he is rude, but because his silence implies self-validation. He does not need agreement to stand where he stands. Machiavelli warned that men are ruined by their virtues when those virtues are displayed without calculation. Honesty spoken to the wrong audience becomes a confession. Loyalty expressed too openly becomes leverage against you. Your mouth exposes you because it tries to be moral in a world that is strategic. This chapter implants a single, uncomfortable truth. Every unnecessary word is a concession. You are not punished for being cruel. You are punished for being readable. From here, the path darkens. Because once you understand the mechanism, you must confront the types of people who exploit it deliberately. That is where the real threat begins. Once you understand how your mouth betrays you, you must identify who benefits from it. Disrespect does not come from random chaos. It comes from predictable human types, archetypes, that evolved to extract advantage from men who speak too freely. These archetypes do not attack strength. They harvest exposure. 1. The provoker is not angry. He is curious. He uses sarcasm, subtle insults, jokes disguised as observations. His goal is not to win. It is to pull you into speech. The moment you explain, laugh defensively, or escalate emotionally, he learns your limits. Provokers thrive on reaction velocity. Fast reactions signal weak internal command. If you respond immediately, he knows you are reactive. If you explain yourself, he knows you are insecure. If you insult back, he knows you are controllable. The provoker disappears the moment silence enters the room. He has no power without friction. Starve him, and he collapses. 2. The moral manipulator. This is the most dangerous archetype because he wears virtue as camouflage. He frames disrespect as honesty, concern, or just saying what everyone thinks. If you object, you look fragile. If you defend yourself, you look guilty. He forces you into a verbal trap where speech itself becomes evidence against you. The moral manipulator does not seek truth. He seeks compliance. He wants you explaining your character, your intentions, your values, because once you speak them aloud, he can weaponize them. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Those who appeal to morality are usually preparing betrayal. Silence denies them the moral high ground they crave. 3. The status leech disrespects you in front of others. Not aggressively, casually, just enough to lower you. His goal is to elevate himself by repositioning you beneath him. If you respond verbally, you acknowledge the hierarchy he just attempted to create. If you overreact, you confirm it. Public settings amplify the danger of speech. Words echo, silence stands. High-status men do not argue status. They occupy it. 4. The familiar invader. This archetype hides behind history. I didn't mean it like that. You know me. I'm just joking. We're close. You're changing. The familiar invader uses shared past to justify present disrespect. He expects access without accountability. If you explain your boundaries, he interprets it as negotiation. Boundaries explained are boundaries weakened. Here, silence followed by distance is the only language understood. 5. The emotional parasite. This one feeds on disclosure. He asks questions. He encourages honesty. He creates a safe space, then stores everything you say for later use. When conflict arises, your own words return as weapons. Emotional parasites rely on verbal generosity. They flourish around men who confuse openness with strength. Machiavelli would call this a fatal misunderstanding of human nature. The pattern. All these archetypes share one dependency. They require your participation. They cannot function without your mouth. They escalate only when rewarded with explanation, defense, or emotion. Silence breaks the cycle because it removes the stimulus they feed on. This is why powerful men appear cold, not because they lack emotion, but because they ration expression. Every word is strategic. Every silence is intentional. This chapter does not teach you to become antisocial. It teaches you to become selective, to recognize when speech is demanded not for understanding, but for extraction. If you can identify the archetype, you can predict the move. If you can predict the move, you can withhold the response. And withholding is power. Next comes the uncomfortable realization: these archetypes are not rare. They dominate history, institutions, and human systems. Once you see that, you understand why most men never escape disrespect. Disrespect is not personal. It is evolutionary. Once you see this, you stop moralizing it and start neutralizing it. Human history does not reward honesty. It rewards control. Speech evolved as a social tool, not a truth device. Those who controlled language controlled groups. Those who spoke too freely became resources. This is why disrespect accelerates around talkative men. Speech as a signal of rank in every hierarchy: tribes, courts, armies, corporations. Speech density correlates with status. Low-status individuals explain, mid-status individuals argue, high-status individuals declare or remain silent. When you speak excessively, you unconsciously broadcast availability. You signal that you are open to negotiation, persuasion, emotional influence. That signal invites testing. Historically, rulers did not justify themselves. They issued outcomes. Anyone forced to explain was already losing ground. Why silence triggers fear? Silence unsettles people because it removes feedback. When someone disrespects you and you do not respond verbally, you deny them data. They cannot read your emotional state. They cannot calibrate their next move. Their brain enters uncertainty. Uncertainty is interpreted as danger. This is why manipulators escalate when ignored, not because they are confident, but because they are losing control of the interaction. Silence forces projection. They begin imagining consequences you never stated. Machiavelli understood this instinctively. He advised rulers to be unreadable, not cruel, not kind, but opaque. Opacity creates authority. Historical proof. Who survived? Look at courts, empires, revolutions. The men who survived were not the most virtuous or articulate. They were the ones who spoke last, spoke little, or spoke only when decisive. Those who protested loudly were eliminated first. Those who justified themselves were marked. Those who explained intentions were preempted. Speech reveals trajectory. Silence hides it. This is why conspiracies are quiet and executions are sudden. The social trap of modern life, modern culture, trains you to do the opposite. You are taught to express feelings, explain boundaries, communicate intentions, clear the air. This advice is fatal in adversarial environments. Explaining boundaries teaches others how to cross them. Explaining feelings teaches others where to strike. Explaining intentions removes surprise. Machiavelli never advised transparency. He advised timing. Speak when speech converts into leverage. Remain silent when speech converts into liability. The disrespect loop here is the loop most men are trapped in. You are disrespected, you explain or defend. Your explanation reveals insecurity or values. Those values are used against you. Disrespect escalates. You speak more to regain control. Each word deepens the loss. Silence breaks the loop at step 1. Not passive silence, strategic silence, the kind that communicates, I am not available for this exchange. Human nature is not fair. It is predictable. People test limb. It's not because they are evil, but because systems reward it. Those who accept disrespect become containers. Those who resist verbally become entertainers. Those who refuse engagement become unknowns. and unknowns are treated carefully. This is the dark truth most men never accept. You are not respected for what you mean. You are respected for what you allow, and allowance is communicated more by absence than by argument. The coming shift, if this unsettles you, good. This chapter is meant to remove comforting illusions, especially the belief that being understood will save you. Understanding does not protect you, position does. In the next chapter, the focus shifts from diagnosis to execution, from knowing why speech exposes you to learning what replaces it, because silence alone is not enough. It must be paired with calibrated action. Otherwise, you risk becoming invisible instead of sovereign. Silence without structure is weakness. Silence with structure is dominance. Most men fail here because they confuse withholding speech with doing nothing. That is amateur thinking. Power is never passive. It simply operates below visibility. This chapter replaces verbal defense with behavioral leverage. The rule of replacement: you do not stop talking and hope respect appears. You stop talking and replace speech with consequence. Words negotiate, actions decide. In every hierarchy, the individual whose behavior creates outcomes controls the frame. Speech becomes unnecessary once outcomes are predictable. This is why powerful men rarely argue. They let the environment answer for them. Strategic silence is a threat vector. Silence becomes effective only when paired with three elements: unpredictability, non-reactivity, decisive follow-through. If you are silent but predictable, you are safe to disrespect. If you are silent but reactive later, you are manipulable. If you are silent and decisive, you become dangerous. Danger commands respect, not morality. Behavioral dominance over verbal boundaries. Verbal boundaries invite negotiation. I don't tolerate disrespect is a request. Silently withdrawing access is a verdict. When someone disrespects you, the correct response is not explanation. It is reallocation. Remove attention, remove availability, remove access, remove benefit. No announcement, no warning. The human brain learns faster from loss than instruction. The power of delayed action. Immediate reactions are emotional. Delayed actions are interpreted as calculated. When you pause after disrespect, observers assume you are assessing, you are deciding, you are capable of escalation. This pause creates psychological pressure. Silence stretches time. Time stretches fear. Those who fear consequences often retreat before consequences are needed. Social environments, the quiet reposition in groups, never correct disrespect publicly with words. Public verbal correction creates sides. Sides create enemies. Instead, change seating, change engagement, change alliances, change access. Let the disrespecter feel the temperature drop without explanation. Cold environments communicate rejection more efficiently than confrontation. Professional environments, authority through absence at work. Overcommunication destroys authority. Explaining yourself places you beneath decision makers, even if you are one. Replace explanation with short confirmations, neutral acknowledgments, action-based responses. No problem, noted. Handled, then execute without discussion. When results arrive without dialogue, authority solidifies. Personal relationships, the withdrawal test in intimate dynamics. Speech is often used to negotiate attraction. This is fatal. The moment disrespect appears, verbal reassurance collapses polarity. Silence combined with emotional withdrawal forces recalibration. The other person must choose. Adjust behavior, lose access. Those who choose loss were never aligned anyway. Why this works biologically: human nervous systems track dominance through control of resources, attention, time, access, safety. Speech offers none of these. Behavior controls all of them. This is why animals do not explain territory. They occupy it. You are wired to respect what can remove itself. The transition point this chapter marks the behavioral shift. You are no longer trying to be understood. You are engineering conditions. You stop arguing reality and start shaping it. But this creates a cost. Once you operate this way, you cannot return to your old identity. People will either adapt or disappear. That identity death is not symbolic, it is social, and that is what comes next. Power does not add layers to who you are. It kills who you were and installs something colder in its place. This chapter is not about improvement. It is about elimination. The identity that keeps getting you exposed, the version of you that keeps explaining, justifying, softening, clarifying. That identity was built for acceptance, not survival. It was trained to seek validation through speech, resolve tension through explanation, avoid discomfort through appeasement, preserve connection at the cost of leverage. That identity must die. Not metaphorically, functionally, because every time you open your mouth to defend yourself, that old self is still alive, panicking, bargaining, hoping to be spared. Predators do not negotiate their value. The psychological cost of silence. Silence feels violent at first because it murders a habit. You are addicted to response. You are addicted to being seen as reasonable. You are addicted to being understood. Silence starves those addictions. This is why weak men talk too much. Speech is emotional regulation for the powerless. When you remove it, anxiety spikes. That spike is withdrawal. If you survive it, something else takes its place. The replacement identity, the new identity, does not react. It observes. It does not explain. It positions. It does not defend itself. It withdraws value. This identity is defined by 3 traits. Opacity, your intentions are unreadable. Selectivity, not everyone gets access. Finality, decisions are not revisited publicly. People fear what they cannot read and cannot negotiate with. Why people will resist the change when you stop explaining yourself? People feel robbed. They were feeding on your predictability. They were using your speech to locate your boundaries. They were testing how far they could push. When that data disappears, discomfort begins. Expect accusations of arrogance, claims you've changed, attempts to provoke reactions, emotional bait disguised as concern. This is not feedback. This is withdrawal behavior from people losing control. The social recalibration phase after identity death, one of 3 things happens. Adaptation, respect increases, tests stop, withdrawal, weak ties dissolve, quietly attack those invested in your old weakness. Escalate. This phase is temporary but critical. If you revert to explanation during this window, the new identity collapses instantly. Power must be consistent to be believed. Internal sovereignty, the final shift is internal. You stop asking, how do I look? Did that come off wrong? Should I explain myself? You start asking, was my position preserved? Did I leak leverage? Did I act decisively? This is sovereignty. You are no longer ruled by how others interpret you. You are ruled by whether outcomes align with your intent. The permanent consequence, once this identity installs, there is no return. You will lose some friendships, some intimacy, some approval, some illusions, but you gain something non-negotiable: control of self. And men who control themselves rarely need to control others. They let silence do the work. That leaves one final issue: what happens if you fail to adopt this identity at all? That warning comes next. This is the last moment you get warned. After this, consequences replace instruction. What happens if you ignore this, if you keep speaking to be liked, explaining to be safe, clarifying to be understood? You will be selected against. Not punished, not attacked, simply excluded from power. You will be passed over, not confronted, used, not respected, discussed, not consulted, managed, not trusted, because systems do not reward honesty. They reward control, and your mouth has been leaking it. The brutal truth about exposure: every word you speak unnecessarily lowers your perceived value, reveals your emotional temperature, exposes your hierarchy position, gives others ammunition. You think talking shows intelligence. In reality, restraint does. Power does not announce itself. It lets others guess and fear being wrong. The selection line: this is where the audience splits. Most will leave this video thinking, interesting, but I'll keep doing what I've always done. They will continue to explain themselves, overshare intentions, seek reassurance, defend their choices, and nothing will change. A smaller group will feel something colder. I've been exposed. Those people will adjust behavior immediately. No posts, no speeches, no declarations, just silence, withdrawal, and repositioning. The elite rule you were never taught: never speak to reduce pressure. Speak only to create it. If words do not end a conversation, set a boundary, shift power, or close a decision, they are unnecessary. And unnecessary words always benefit someone else more than you. Final instruction from today forward: if you are emotional, right arrow, say nothing. If you are uncertain, right arrow, say nothing. If you are provoked, right arrow, say nothing. If you are explaining, right arrow, stop. Let absence replace defense. Let silence replace justification. Let outcomes speak. This is not self-help. This is self-preservation. Final line: most men talk themselves into weakness. A few learn when to disappear. Choose carefully. You will not get another warning.